Court. What's up, everybody? This is Cortland from ndhackers.com, and today we are hosting our very first live office hours session. We have Vincent Woo, the founder of a company called CoderPad, here to guide a few entrepreneurs through some issues they'd like to talk about and help them grow their startups. CoderPad is, last I checked, doing something like $2 million a year in annual recurring revenue.
No. Yeah, we do like way more than that now.
Way more than that. How much now? You willing to share?
Man. Fuck, this is live.
This is live.
Yeah, I guess about 4.
Wow. Okay. So this is like, that was like a year and a half ago I talked to you, a year?
I don't know, probably at least a year, yeah.
Okay. So it's pretty cool growth. And you've bootstrapped this whole thing. You're in your apartment in SF right now. I'm in my apartment in SF right now.
That is true. These are both true things, Cortland. Thank you.
And we're going to watch you give office hours to a couple of indie hackers who've come on. So first up, I think, is Alex. I'll let you guys take it from here.
Sure. Yeah, I can go. My name is Alex. I'm here in Waterloo, Canada. So I'm the founder of a project called Seed and Due. Seed and Due is a platform that allows you to contribute to open source as a whole instead of specific projects. So the idea is you pay $10 a month to open source, and that gets distributed in proportion to how much you care about a project. The proxy we're using for that is how much time you spend on the documentation site. So if you spend 25% of your time on the bundler site, bundler gets 25% of your subscription revenue.
Okay. Is that the end of the pitch?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. So how do you make money?
We take a cut. So we take a 30% cut, which includes all payment processing costs. And
30%.
Yeah.
On the like free payment provider. Okay, so I see, like before fees, essentially.
Right. Well, we cover all fees, yes.
I guess the obvious question is sort of like why this? Like, how did you arrive at this strategy? Like, why is this the business that you want to make? Sure.
So there's obviously a problem with open source projects actually getting funded like to the level they should be. And one of the things I kept seeing is that you're basically relying on engineers to try pitching, to basically market their products and kind of pitch why they need to be funded. And each project is kind of on their own, and they all have to kind of redo the same amount of work over and over again. What tends to happen is that certain projects, like the larger ones, Django, Bootstrap, they tend to get a vast majority of the funding, and then smaller projects get next to nothing. So people are basically doing it, 2 to 3 hours every day as a side project.
Is that an incorrect outcome?
I believe it is.
Like,
right?
in what sense?
There's a lot of projects that people are relying on a day-to-day basis that are just not being maintained correctly. People are just moving on.
Okay. And the proposal for the business is that, like, you sign a contract with them and also ask that all their engineers install a Chrome extension that measures the reading time on various documentation websites?
So what we do is we provide a JavaScript snippet to the project themselves, and that's what we use to kind of detect how much time you're spending on.
I see. So all the documentation sites install essentially like a tracker.
Correct.
Which they... how do you... wait, so is the allocation per company like specific to your company, or is it like global based on the overall amount of reading time per documentation?
It's on a per account basis.
So like users who are reading documentation need to be logged in, and they need to be on a site that has a specific tracking cookie in order for you to register company A spending time on like open source project B.
Correct.
And from that you learn the okay. Yeah. I don't know. My initial reaction is like, that sounds like a tough business, man. Like, it seems like the hard part in open source funding isn't necessarily the allocation. It seems mostly like getting companies to give to open source at all. I think what you're proposing is essentially a refinement on the 1% of companies who have already chosen to give to open source, which is like a vast minority of companies, I think, currently give to open source. And the amounts that they give are tiny, right? Like, I think Stripe is, they've had a few open source sponsorships to, I don't know, probably the tune of, they're probably one of the most generous ones. Cortland, do you remember? how much they were kicking in. I think they were kicking in. It sponsored a few maintainers to just come live at Stripe for a while, right?
Yeah, including Julian Shapiro, who we've had on some of these office hours calls in the past. He runs a growth agency, Bowcurve. I'm not sure how much they were paying. This was like
Right.
years ago.
Probably in the tens of thousands per maintainer, right? For a very fixed amount of time. I don't know if they do these on a recurring basis or not. I guess my point is like Stripe is probably the most generous or up there, probably with Google or something in terms of people who do this. Most companies who kick in open source, they only kick in when they see a project need. Like I've done it to CodeMirror, as a way of accelerating like certain types of bug fixes and development. But generally speaking, like, I don't donate to like Homebrew and like the thousands of libraries that all, sit below us on the stack. And furthermore, like as a business, I would be a little leery of like using documentation time as a proxy for importance, right? Because documentation time is going to be correlated with all sorts of other stuff. Like if the library is bad, spend more time on documentation because you're encountering surprising behavior, or if the documentation itself is just longer or written poorly. Mm-hmm. I would say, there are a lot of people trying to grow the open source pie right now. It seems like collectively their actions have a lot more value than necessarily any one particular strategy does. I would maybe try to avoid the complication that this sort of automatic tracking scheme provides. I would say instead that you could probably add a lot of value personally by saying, like, I, Alex, will talk to you, company, and figure out like what the 5 most important open source projects to your company is, and propose like a split for you that helps ensure that the most critical libraries to your business, stay online. I mean, some aspect of that is going to be live because like those libraries have dependencies that have dependencies and so on, right? Like it's an infinite pyramid. There's no bottom. No compiler has been compiled without the aid of a compiler since the 70s. But, I think messaging that you have expertise and that you would shepherd them through a process, I think speaks to what businesses like needs and fears are about this, right? So why don't companies contribute to open source, right? Like I think most of them because they don't see a need, and the ones that remain, like they kind of don't know how to do it, So I think you can at least ameliorate the like, oh, I don't know how to do this thing part by offering like a very white glove service. But
wouldn't that require a lot of input from the part of the company? Like I would have to go chat with them periodically.
Well, yeah, you should want to do that, right?
No, it's not a question of whether I'll do it. It's a question of whether they want to do that, which is what I was trying to.
I would hypothesize that any company willing to pay you money in this endeavor, even in the old case where it was a totally self-serve solution, will want to talk to you. Like will want to, because what you're proposing is so radical. Yeah, like, right. Like, do you have a sense for like, is this a new version of a very well-established like industry business, or is this like a totally new industry? Right. I would say this open source contribution stuff is still so new that it's just a bunch of people trying to expand the pie right now. And I think the ones who will succeed in that endeavor are the ones best able to get inside businesses, message the importance first and foremost of open source, and then later, you can refine the collection model, the allocation model. I think of that as secondary, right? The big top line number for you is total dollars given by any company, right? You want to be involved in the conversation, right? Like you want to be maximizing their understanding of the impact of open source on their business, right? If you kind of just have a website and you let them, just kind of pick however much they want to give, they'll give whatever token amount makes their employees stop complaining, right? Which is going to be like $1,000 or something. And I mean, 30% of a few thousand is a lot, but if you can get more, you could take a smaller cut or just make more money or, whatever. That's my general feeling on this topic.
And what if you're not targeting businesses? What if you go after like consumers?
I strongly recommend that you do not do that.
Okay.
How much money do you donate to open source?
Yeah, like $100. Not much.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have way more leverage trying to get bigger checks from a few companies than trying to get like a regular developer to part with $100 just for no reason besides to, be good. That's a nightmare. That is, you have to run like a whole marketing team. Hold on, my computer's making beeps. I need to close these windows or something. Yeah, okay. That is my feeling. I would stick to B2B. I think everyone who's doing OSS contributions have gone B2B for a good reason. I know, I think there's a few like Gitter or GitTip or something that like are just trying to collect on a voluntary model. And you can look at those businesses to guidance, right? So like GitTip or whatever, Gitter, I think their best projects probably pull in, only a few thousand or something, right? Which is like one check from a Stripe or something. So like, where is your time best spent if you're trying to get this to, oh no, it's Slack. If you're trying to get this to a sustainable business that you can actually live on, you're going to need to pull in yourself to survive, let's say, at least $50,000 at 30%. That means you need to be pulling in like hundreds of thousands of dollars in contribution. And I think that should be your guiding star, right? Like, does this action plausibly get me to like hundreds of thousands of years in like corporate OSS donations or not? And if not, then not a viable plan. But if maybe, then like probably worth a shot.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. You look like you're in an office right now. Do you have a job?
No, I quit to kind of do this full time.
Where are we right now?
I'm in Waterloo, Ontario, in Canada.
Oh, you're on college. Okay, so I misunderstood. I thought you meant that you were like had attended Waterloo.
Oh, I did. Sorry, I attended Waterloo. I went to Seattle to work. I quit my job to come here, kind of do this full time.
Did you go to work at Amazon or something?
Microsoft.
I see why you quit.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. Is that helpful? Do you want to talk about other stuff relating to this? Cortland, I have no idea how to run this, so you want to be the adult in the room at any time.
Yeah, so I feel like you guys are still in the middle of a conversation. There's only 2 people so far here, so you can go a little bit longer. I might invite a couple people off Twitter who have DM'd me and said they want to join. So Alex, if you have more questions to ask Vincent, go for it. And I think
more people is probably going to be more entertaining for the video. I also full caveat, like this is just random advice I'm making up in my brain as I react to the words that come out of your mouth.
Right.
Like these are not fully formed nor considered business strategies. These are just my reactions. Like what you're buying access to right now is just like, how do I feel about a thing? And you should take that into account, right? Like, is everything I said totally?
I think what you're saying makes some sense. It is clicking. If I decide to go down the B2B approach, how would you actually recommend kind of reaching out to these companies?
I mean, I would start with, okay, so this is the essential question of B2B, which is how do I get customers? And there is no one answer. Different founders usually go about it in different ways, sort of almost always in accordance with how their personalities are. I kind of just talk to a bunch of people. Like I asked people to introduce me to their boss, and like I just knew at least 10 people that worked at tech companies or something, and just hit them all up. And then we went real slow from there. And for a while we did like cold email outreach as well, and that worked like okay until we got more traction. Then we didn't really need to as much. But I wouldn't. Okay, so I mean the real answer is in the beginning you should try everything, right? Like in the hardest portion of this company's lifetime, if it is to be successful, is probably going to be mostly around the beginning, right? Getting your first 10 customers is gonna be really hard, right?
Okay.
You probably want to look for any way that companies who might plausibly be a particular buyer profile, if they hang out in one spot or anything. So like, do companies talk about open source a lot on the public internet? Like if they've blogged about it, like maybe they're worth just reaching out to. Hey, I read your blog. If you see them tweeting about, vaguely tangentially related open source topic, you can message, be like, hey, I'd love to talk to, whoever at your company might be considering stuff like open source contributions. We think we, offer this service, which you can phrase as a consultancy or as, you can even still go with the original, we'll try to do an allocation based on your packages, or you can make a script that digests package.jsons and spits out an allocation or anything. I think you probably want to sell this notion that you're an expert in deriving what is a good allocation for your company, however that's arrived at. I don't know if the method is so important. But mostly the hard part is just going to be like getting in the door with them, getting them to give any amount, and getting them, I mean, crucially, like through you, right? Because like, truthfully, like as a company, I don't know if the cut works, right? Like if you're asking me to give $10,000 to open source and you're asking for 3, that's a big ask. I mean, I think that, some companies might look at that and think, $3,000 to, decide on our own donation allocation, it might be a little rough. You might want to like try to backload the fee somehow or phrase it some other way, or have your fee be more fixed and scale with the amount of work that you do personally. I don't know. That's kind of like new territory, right? Like that's the thing that your company is going to have to figure out.
Right.
And it's hard from the outside to necessarily know what is going to stick.
Can I throw an idea out there? Just that you don't need to code to actually start selling this. Like the company has no idea whether or not it works. So you can start selling it like today before you build anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can manually read package.json and say like these 5. I mean, no one's going to know what you're doing in the beginning, right? You can just have this mysterious black box.
Okay, cool. I have a couple of quick questions. Like, how do you measure progress? Let's assume this actually worked and I was moving forward. Like some days I work on stuff and then I go home and I think I'm super tired. I'm making progress. I'm doing stuff. But then in the morning, I wonder whether I actually made progress.
Hey man, you can't think like that. You just like, that's not important.
Okay.
I would say the most important thing is have like an active social life and like things that you like doing outside of work, right? Like your goal is to be healthy and happy. The business will proceed at whatever pace the business proceeds at. You can burn yourself to try to go a bit faster, but in the grand scheme of things, like how much is it going to matter, right? So the advantage of bootstrapping is that you can afford to go much slower than an otherwise venture-backed corporation would. Nonetheless, I see bootstrappers, often like pulling insane hours and stuff for no particular reason, right? Because when you work really hard, you don't really accelerate your development by that much. Like as for actually measuring progress, I mean, there's only really one progress bar that matters, and that's how much money are you making. Before you hit the point where you're making money, there is no measurement that is useful, right? Okay. It's like you wrote some code. Maybe that code matters. You don't know yet because you don't have customers, right?
Right.
You should conceive of yourself as in the guessing stage. Right now, you're incubating a bunch of guesses about what to do, and you have to go try them and test them. I think progress. You can maybe look at progress as crossing off guesses from a list. Oh, this doesn't work, right? Let's try this next. But it's not going to be clear for a long time. And you kind of have to resign yourself to that.
Okay.
If you're happy, on your own, and you're doing things that feel meaningful to you, then it won't feel like a big existential issue.
Okay.
Vincent, how long were you working on CoderPad in the early days, if you can remember back that far?
I worked nights and weekends. Like I had a full-time job, so I didn't like quit my job to work on it until it was already making money. I think that's a good scam if you can pull that. Not everyone can pull that. Like not everyone's boss, is as forgiving as mine. And, not every business is conducive to like part-time work essentially. But, like in this case, right, I think a lot of your time on target should be spent trying to talk to potential customers, like number one thing. Mm-hmm. And that might be harder to do on a part-time schedule because during the working hours you would be at work, right? So it kind of helps to have those hours free.
And one final question is like, I've been looking a bit into like the whole open startup thing, like publishing your metrics like super publicly.
Don't do it.
No?
I mean, you can do it if you want, but like, what do you get out of it?
So the original idea was to go down the whole going to consumers thing. And like, I thought by publishing your metrics, it could be more like a community with raising this much money for open source.
I think metrics. So when you say company metrics, like, so let me ignore the last sentence I said. I understand what you're saying. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think if you're trying to build a consumer community, I think transparency in the community is one of the key things that they will need. You could totally actually run both a B2C and a B2B side of this business if you were so daring. I think it would be difficult to bootstrap your way into, a livable business straight off the back of B2C, I think it'd be easier to do B2C first. But yeah, I think that is one appropriate growth tactic to take if you're approaching B2C.
Okay.
For most companies, I don't really recommend it. I mean, it gives away a lot, and you don't really get anything in return.
What are the downsides to that?
I mean, if you have competitors, now they know how much you make. If you have potential, investors or acquirers, they have, very detailed access to your financials that they would have eventually anyway, but they get that before you get to talk to them. So it changes the conversation a little bit. And, it can become stressful, right? Josh Pigford, I think, wrote about how, he was kind of put out by investors mailing him with questions like, hey, we checked out the Baremetrics public dashboard. Does it really only make X amount? And that hurt him, emotionally.
Yeah.
And for totally reasonable cause, right? That's a shitty thing to say to someone on the internet. But it kind of came with he put all this out there for free and asked nothing in return. I think it was a really great kind of growth hacking thing at the time when that was a thing that no one had done. But now that people do it, I don't think anyone cares.
Funny story. Before I started Indie Hackers, Vincent was one of the first founders that I emailed to come on the site and share his revenue. And he was one of many people who said, why would I do that? Absolutely not. And so you didn't come on to the podcast until a year and a half.
Yeah, I only came on when I stopped caring, I don't really care about that much stuff anymore. So it's easy. I mean, yeah, never mind. That's exactly true, Cortland. Thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, why don't we move on to Philip? Alex, if you've got any questions, of course, you can still jump in. But we've been going for about 25 minutes now. Let's switch over to Philip's company, Moonlight.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm Philip. I'm one of the co-founders of Moonlight. We're at moonlightwork.com. And Moonlight is a professional network for software developers. So we started it about 2 years ago after I had trouble hiring software developers in my previous company. I started to realize that there's a lot of people with day jobs kind of interested in moonlighting on the side. So we launched the site with no code, kind of like a Squarespace prototype, wire transfers, that kind of thing, and grew it in the first year before we kind of launched an application a full year ago. And the original idea was that it was a marketplace where we were processing transactions and taking a cut. And started to grow that last year. Revenue was going up. And we started to realize that there were a lot of people, a lot of our clients were interested in hiring full-time. We're using Moonlight in a variety of ways beyond what we kind of expected. So they were using it to meet developers, hire developers, things like that. And so we started to transition. Yeah.
How did that work?
So we took a 15% cut basically on payments. And then we started to have clients saying can I just do the buyout on everyone here? I want to try to convert them to full time and it's not worth paying you the hourly rate. And so we kind of took a step back and we're maybe we should try to make this a product, a subscription business. Maybe
we made a recruiting platform and didn't realize it.
Yeah, so that's basically where we're at. So we started to sell these subscriptions, this membership for companies, sold a couple at $10,000 per year.
It's not bad.
No, and where we're at is we're kind of making a bunch of changes to the product to kind of reorient around the idea of more of a community and more of a general sourcing platform for companies, which is great for us in a variety of ways. But where we're at now is we have redone kind of our onboarding, our marketing, positioning, things like that. And we're starting to do more demos with companies, and the process for sales has kind of changed. We're no longer asking for hire someone and then pay a cut later. It's more we have to convince them for a more considered purchase of $10,000 basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the big change that Hired went through as well, or is trying to. I think they still offer both payment methods, right?
Yeah,
which I think is an indication to the effect that it may not be possible to totally switch, all of your customers to the subscription model necessarily.
Yeah, and so I guess what I'm interested in today is we have more inbound. One of the things that worked really well for us is kind of embedding a Calendly page at the end of onboarding to like get everyone that signs up to set up a call with us. We're also doing some more outbound. We're starting to work on figuring out like what should our demo meeting be, and we're working on like a sales deck. I could like share my screen and show that to you, but I'm interested in your thoughts on like how should we be doing a sales demo? What should that structure be?
How should we be doing a sales demo?
Yeah, like what's the structure?
What do you normally do?
Yeah, so we have been kind of winging it. A lot of it has just been very conversational. We're both like product founders, and so we've been talking to people basically about their needs and
that sounds good.
Figuring out next steps. But I think what it's kind of lacking is we're never really doing a presentation on like what Moonlight is. We haven't really done a great job of.
But why do you feel that way? That to me is more interesting necessarily than like what the deck is itself, right? Like, so I'm saying you did a variety of sales meetings with people in which you are closing significant amounts of money, but you have some sense that like maybe you're not closing enough, and you sat down together and you decided that like, you know, the missing element is a presentation. Like why
I think it's more just realizing that people are asking the same questions and we're not presenting the information in a structured way.
Why not just say the information that they're asking?
Yeah, we do that. I think that we have kind of like some baggage from previously being primarily a contractor-based platform. And one of the things that works really well in Moonlight is contract to hire. And so I think one of the things we want to do is also like take this as an opportunity to educate people on where Moonlight works really well, and also to set out some expectations. Because
that all sounds great.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is like, you're kind of asking two questions, right? Like one question is about like what medium should a, you know, sales demo be conducted in?
Yeah.
Second question is kind of like what makes for a good sales demo? I feel it's the implicit question behind the first one.
Yeah.
I would say the advice I have been given that I have hewn closely to without questioning too much since our early days is avoid giving demos, or like if it is a demo, it's explicitly a demo, you know, give the demo, but really that's a sales call disguised as a demo, right? A demo is a perfunctory thing you perform to demonstrate that you are real.
Yeah.
You know, and you move right back into talking to the customer about their needs and like why it's important that they do whatever it is that you want them to do, or, you know, like to assuage their fears about whatever it is that they're afraid of. You know, I think of that as the important part of the sales call, not necessarily the medium. And that I think people may over prepare for demos often by, you know, focusing on the logistics of the demo. People say yes or no to your company based sort of how they feel about you and whether they think that, you know, your product is going to be the one that they need. In so much as a presentation can be helpful in that respect, I think it's a totally fine idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the most important aspect of the meeting though. That's
Definitely.
my reaction, right? So I would say like, it sounds like you know what notes to hit, right? It sounds like you've had some problems translating your message from your old form of the business to the kind of new form of the business it is now. But like, no one is going to know the nuances of the differences between these two things better than the two founders, right? Like, if you guys can coach yourself into delivering the pitch that you want, I would just do that. If a presentation you think will help you force you to hit the right notes, I think that's a totally fine idea too.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing in the meeting is always going to be like, what is the customer thinking and feeling and understanding? And people really, they can blow it on the PowerPoints, man. We can look at it. Actually, that would be fun.
Sure.
We haven't done this kind of thing before, so we can do anything.
So my co-founder has been working hard on this. It's not done, but so I think our goal is to kind of keep it short. Let's see. Can you see what I have here?
Yeah. Oh, this is Figma. Dude, shout out to Figma. Enter the code Vincent at figma.com to get $5 off your first month of Figma. It's a great platform. All right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think our kind of goals with this are give a little bit of backstory, convey a sense of credibility to kind of move on to next steps, talk about pricing, and then be able to like figure out what the next steps for that person is for the product. So to start off just kind of saying we're Moonlight. We help people meet developers and work together.
Okay, wait, stop.
Yeah.
Go back. Okay, just so I understand, who is the customer who is reading this?
So right now we're mostly dealing with startups who are like under 20 people.
Right.
But
Sorry, let me put it this way. Is the customer's goal to hire a full-time developer or not?
So sometimes it is. I think that if we're talking about long-term goal, realistically, if some of these businesses are positioning themselves for like raising further money or acquisitions or anything like that, there's like more value to having a full-time person than a contractor. But there's also like a time trade-off. Like some of these businesses are saying,
sure.
like,
I'm just saying, like statistically speaking, like for you, like most of them are looking to hire full-time or no?
Yeah, but I think it's a trade-off because they have this trade-off between like their short-term needs and their kind of long-term desires. So it's definitely.
I only bring this up because look, the first two headlines, or I guess the heading and subheading, don't necessarily convey what you're about to do for them, right? You're going to meet developers and work together. Kind of like someone reading this slide in isolation could very reasonably come away with the idea that, oh, you're like a community, like you know, not Eventbrite. What am I thinking? Like meetup.com type thing where we can like come into contact with developers and then pitch them. But like you're actually more transactional. You're more business focused, right? Which is to say you help people hire developers, some of whom are full-time, some of them are like part-time, right?
Yeah.
Like you help people hire either contractors or full-time employees.
One of the things I was kind of thinking about was like something like this. I don't know if this, I would love to get your thoughts on this. We talk about people who are interested in like talking about on-site versus remote and like contractor versus full-time.
Sorry, I don't actually know what I'm looking at.
What I would say here is we have people who are talking to us saying like we're interested in like an on-time full-time person, and so we say like that would be like really long-term and competitive. If you're interested in looking at remote developers, that's a much faster hiring process for getting applications. If you really want someone on-site, contractors are a really great way to go. And
so the problem with this is like this is complicated, right? Like you're asking the customer to self-sort into a value proposition.
Yeah,
I would say the right thing to do is probably to have known what the customer wants before you get to this part of the sales process. Make 2 decks.
Yeah, and so this is kind of, so we were kind of, I'll zoom out here so we can see, we were kind of thinking of splitting it into 3 decks, kind of mostly the same. I think your feedback about the first page, making sure we're speaking to their problems more, is really good.
Yeah.
And I think the goal for this page is to talk more a little bit about our background, kind of who we're working with.
Yeah, if the second slide is the first slide, I'm happy. I mean, do you really need the first slide?
Yeah, that's really good feedback.
Like this is what people want to see, right? They want to, okay, so like straight away I'm self-sorting into like, okay, I can hire some people with you. And you got the social proof logos. Oh, that's nice. Community of software developers and product designers. Okay, sure. And then they probably go to the next slide because like I want to read more.
And so here we're kind of talking about what Moonlight does. I think we're trying to position it more as a sourcing product.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be, that's my read too, just from having talked to you so far as like you are helping me do hiring essentially.
And then kind of talking about what you were saying is we would kind of split the deck into different use cases based on what people are saying. So if they're looking for contractors, we can be talking about how we do payment processing so that if you hire someone from outside the country, we can handle the logistics of that.
Sure.
It's a really quick hiring process. Next one is contract to hire, where it's really good for being able to get in contact with developers right away and eventually being able to work with them instead of an interview and figuring out whether it's
I can sort of imagine what the full-time one would be like.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next slide, I think. I'm
Yeah.
curious. Let's just kind of go slowly through the whole thing, and then I'll give you my thoughts on how it all fits together, how it works.
So right now it's very much centered around posting jobs. So you post a job, it collects applications, and then you talk with people. We're starting to roll out some additional tools, though, that are more focused around people trying to build a longer-term pipeline. We're letting people see the speed of developers.
So I think this slide should be fragmented too. You know, like I think really useful for the customer here is to have a sense of like, what is the timeline of this, right? If you're telling me this is for some people a thing they complete within a day, and for other people a thing they complete within like weeks. I imagine the copy that they want to see is probably going to be different, and that, you know, like showing the actual literal timeline on this page would be nice too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good feedback.
The face pictures thing is nice, but I don't know. Like it doesn't, I guess it makes these people real, which is nice. You can have that maybe on the first slide or the second slide, I think, as well.
Okay.
I guess you have a lot of logos on that page too. Look, yeah, forget the design stuff. I don't even really think it matters too much. All right, let's go to 6. Pricing, annual membership. I would say it's not clear what the difference. I think you should say very literally what the pricing differences are here.
Yeah.
So like, what does an annual membership buy you?
Yeah, so we're kind of trying to package this as like everything. You get search access, so you can be able to look for instance, like.
Oh, you cut out. What's up? Oh, did I cut out? Am I
still hear you, Vincent. I think
a lot of our new features are going to be exclusive.
Wait. Hey, Philip, you cut out
Testing.
for the last. You cut out for the last 30 seconds.
Testing. Can you hear me?
You're back. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So with the annual membership, we're basically providing everything to them. They get search access for instance, being able to look for a Python developer in San Francisco. They get cold outreach.
I would say it kind of says that here, but that stuff is, they're not going to know any of these things, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to know what an annual membership means or why they would want it. So if you're going to sell this as a specific thing that they can buy, and actually you probably prefer that they buy this.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to message the value prop very clearly. So, I mean, for growing teams, I find amusing in the sense that literally everybody that's talking to you is going to conceive of themselves as growing in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of it's a universal canard. It doesn't really tell you like whether it's that for you or not. So I mean, is there literally a team size where this starts being more common? I would just say that. Hire throughout the year sort of implies that you can't hire throughout the year with the other one. Is that true?
So with the single job post, this is kind of like a vestige of the previous pricing structure. It's mainly designed for people who want to hire like a single contractor.
Yeah.
And like want an option that's not the full membership.
So yeah, I see the distinctions are probably not going to be obvious to the customer.
Yeah.
Right? I would just redo this whole slide.
Okay.
Or you might even want 2 slides. I don't know. But like these are very different models for how to hire. I would explain that single post is, for people looking to hire like one contractor now to fulfill most of their needs, and like that you have a fast turnaround time, and that like our contractors are rearing and ready to go, like really selling the value proposition for the particular pricing option. And for the annual membership, I would do likewise.
Yeah. And talk more about like the benefits to the company. Yeah.
Because this is just a list of very vaguely worded features because you haven't given yourself the space to explain, right? Like you're limited by the visual design of this page almost to like 4 or 5 words for each bullet, right? So like first access to new candidates, that kind of stuff as a customer makes me go like, what are you talking about? Like if I get first access and everyone else who buys this gets first access, who gets the most first access?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing, right? Like, and do I want first access? It sounds good, but like, how do I value that goodness? It's hard to understand necessarily.
And so how would you kind of phrase something along the lines of like, we'll let you know when new matches join the site, like the first access to new?
I would start with that sentence and just, expand it from there, right? Like have alerts for when developers who meet your like hiring criterion sign up for the site. Get the first notification this happens, like automated notifications for like when this thing's happening. When you're selling like a thing that people aren't used to buying, you have to be pretty literal. Like we talked a little bit about this with Alex, right? Like education, when you're expanding the pie, is important. And Hired has done some of this work to an extent. You can say similar to Hired is actually like a really easy way of cheating some of this stuff if they're familiar with the Hired membership model. But I don't know if you want to introduce a competitor's name in this. But like they had similar problems, right? Where companies, they're used to operating contingency. Contingency recruiting is a very old industry now, and it's been going on for a really long time. This is different, right? Like it's like we're taking flat fees now, and we're just giving you access, and then it's on you to make the hires. which can be scary to companies, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a financial outlay. They don't know whether they're going to get value or not. So I think some of the copy needs to assuage them that like people who buy this thing almost always make the hires they need to make, right? It's like, like what are the customer's fears going to be? Like I would say you got to really get in the customer's head.
Yeah.
Like try to look at this like a person who has no idea what any of these words mean because they don't.
Yeah, that's great feedback. What are your thoughts on mentioning something along the lines of like a 30-day like refund period or something like that?
I don't know, man. Is that enough time? If I'm a recruiter and I'm looking at like my hiring pipeline, usually takes at least 20 days.
Yeah.
So I've got exactly 10 days to figure out whether this thing works. Like, am I going to be able to make that decision within 30 days?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is one of those things where it's like you have to ask your customer. Like, I cannot tell you.
So we've had a monthly membership that's $2,000 per month, but no one has bought it. It's all been like single posts or annual.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice about whether that has any like psychological or practical value to keep around?
Dude, I don't. That's tough. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of this is due to small sample size effects or like what the difference is between like monthly and yearly. It kind of feels like if you're someone who wants a monthly commitment, you probably just want to be making single posts anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. It would depend on how your platform actually works, which I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, I think, maybe the market's telling you something there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good feedback. I think you're right. It could be
the proposal with the annual membership is that they will in the long term save money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think you would want to say that also.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. Okay, cool. And then I think we're working on adding some testimonials at the end here.
Sure.
I think that what you were saying earlier about wanting to know that they'll make hires and kind of de-risking that, I think you have good feedback about maybe turning membership into its own slide. Maybe we could drop a testimonial in there.
Yeah, just write a testimonial for a customer that says, at first we were afraid, but we've been really happy with how consistently we've been able to hire, and then ask them to say that they said it,
Yeah. We've got some really great testimonials on the homepage, so we'll pull them in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, we looped. Okay, yeah. So that is my feeling on the deck. But I would, again, reference my initial comment that, like, can't lean too heavily on the deck.
Yeah, definitely.
The deck is nice, but the sales are made by founders in these situations.
That's great feedback.
Sure. Happy to help. Cortland, how do you feel about all this? You're muted.
I am muted. I've been talking to people, seeing if we can get other people to come join the call, sort of filtering to make sure we get people who have relevant products. Although it might be fun to have you talk to someone who's doing something completely out of your wheelhouse that has nothing to do with sales or B2B.
Yeah, that could be fun. I like philosophy and stuff. Philip, do you have more questions? I feel like I should ask that question.
Sure, we could. Do you want to go through our homepage? Because we're kind of always working on that.
Yeah, I can take a look. Cortland, let us know if you want to get more people in or whatever. Just
if someone's going to join, they'll just appear. So keep going until someone else appears.
Mm-hmm.
If no one does, then I'll do my own office hours with Vincent. Well, you'll tell me what I should do.
How you fix indiehackers.com, the website. Yeah.
Let's see. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm just I'll treat this more as like a user study. I'd love to get your thoughts on the homepage. Our kind of problem is that we're a two-sided marketplace. We have developers who are interested generally in looking for contract or full-time work.
Yeah.
Appealing to
you got to split the landing pages.
Yeah, separate landing pages.
For sure. I mean, the problem with making one landing page that tries to hit vaguely both value props is you kind of just end up with this mishmash in the middle, where like as either an employee or an employer in this website, I'm not necessarily sure what it is that you do. Right.
Okay, so because we're trying to have two different value props by matching them together.
Right, like literally you're lying, right? Like if I'm a developer, I don't meet other developers on your website, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up, like that. Those words are just wrong, So
yeah.
When you say split the landing page, you mean split this landing page into sort of two sections, not make two separate landing pages.
No, I mean make two landing pages for sure.
So what's his homepage gonna say?
Oh, like who cares? No one's gonna land there, right? Like you advertise the landing pages, right? Like that's where you get your leads. I would say, if anything, the homepage should be the company landing page, and then because those are the people most likely to actually seek out your website and land on it on their own. And you're probably gonna have to advertise. I don't know how you're reaching developers now, but you're probably reaching through specific channels through which you can link directly to the candidate specific landing page, which I would recommend instead. Two-sided marketplaces are tricky like that. I mean, and which segment they choose to market to by default, varies across industry. Like if you go to Uber.com, I think it's like probably the consumer-focused one, I'm gonna guess. Or maybe now it's all abstract and weird because they keep doing stupid redesigns or whatever. But like, move the way.
I was gonna say most.
Okay, they ask you to self-sort into the correct landing page.
Right. Exactly.
Which is reasonable, I guess. You can do that as well. Yeah, I think this is also a fine strategy, I guess.
Okay.
Sign up to drive.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back. Schedule a call. Yeah, so I mean, the way that you're messaging it below the fold is definitely directed at companies that even sort of, and then it goes start with the project, even if you're, so this is all employer-focused verbiage anyway, right?
Yeah.
So again, I would say like if you think your timeline is a big part of your value prop, like you can hire within a day if you have to. Like I wouldn't be afraid to message that for the different options. This is kind of nice, but I don't know that like this like hero like dark background section adds much value. Like these are literally all the steps that are involved in hiring a developer, pretty much like anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the commodity part. If you feel like you have some sort of unique value proposition or leverage, I would try to sell that more. I'm not really sure where you're finding developers or why you have a leg up on the competition, or if you do, but I would make one up if you don't. And you kind of need some way to message like why you should work with us as opposed to any of the other 100 contingency firms that are like calling you for your business all the time, right?
Yeah. I think a big part is that we are mostly US based developers. That's what we're kind of trying to communicate. So through like sections like this, and kind of our focus on like skills, being able to match you based on whatever technologies you're using.
So the employers tend to be non-US and the candidates tend to be US?
Both sides tend to be US based.
Oh, okay. I don't know if that's unusual. I feel like that's not so unusual. Like if you go unhired, you'll probably, I don't know, but I feel like if you go unhired, you'll see a lot of US based companies as a US based candidate.
As we were focusing on contract business, it was a big differentiation. But I guess that with full-time...
With full-time, I mean, you may even need to split your value props like that for people who are looking full-time. It does seem that the people hiring full-time are going to have very different needs than people hiring contract. And I think the sooner you can identify what bucket a potential customer is going to be in, the better you can message the value prop to them. But when you're kind of just pitching vaguely, like, hire people to the different kinds of people who are hiring people, it's going to be tougher, I think.
Okay.
And it may be that you have more leverage in contract, like you're pursuing the full-time angle, but I mean, you'd have to see whether the math works out too, right? Because that is a very competitive industry.
Yeah, it's all competitive, but yeah.
I mean, I guess they all are.
Yeah, that's all great feedback. Do you have any advice about, I guess now is a convenient stopping point. Cortland, do you have anything else to switch over to, or should we keep going?
Yeah, so we've got one more founder who just joined, Andre. Before he gets in here, I have a question for Vincent.
Yeah.
You guys have grown, $4 million in revenue since the last time I talked to you. You guys are doing $2 million. What are some things about maybe your sales process that have changed in that time period?
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Why have you guys grown so much more quickly? Is it
we just have a really good product? I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to do retrocausality. I don't know why the things that happen. And I think a lot of founders are very apt to slap narratives on events that happen in a linear sequence in time. But humans, we really don't know that much, you know? We just have some vague intuitions about direction, and then things happen or they don't. And like, I like to stress that, right? Like, you can execute totally well on a totally fine idea and still just blow up and die. Like, and it's not really going to be your fault. I mean, like, yeah, could you have saved it? Maybe, but like, we don't live in the world where that happens. So like, how could we know? Right? Like, you get sample size 1. I feel like if I had to put like one like causal explanation to it, it's probably that our product is a little inherently viral, you know, like candidates interview on the platform and then talk to other people about it. Employers take the tool with them, you know, or look, recruiters, I guess I should say, they take the tool with them when they switch jobs. We've seen that a few times. We don't have any math on like what source accounts for what. We don't do any tracking. So like, I just don't know. I also don't care. Like, it's not important to me.
Okay, let me ask you one more question. This one that you should be more confident in being able to answer. You don't have to sort of guess. What does your sales process look like at CoderPad? We heard from Philip about what he's kind of doing at
Oh,
Meet.
yeah. So someone emails
What is
us,
your sales?
and then we email them back. And if it looks like we should talk to them on the phone, we talk to them on the phone, you know, however many times is necessary. While we talk to them, you know, like you do the sales thing, which is like you say, hey, like tell me about your life. Like, are you married? You know, like, do you have any problems? How many kids do you have? Like, oh, okay, like that sounds really stressful. You know, we help with that stress in this way. And, you know, we think we're really good at this, and we think your problems will all be solved and you will not have ulcers anymore if you right. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a joke, but like, that's basically it, right? Like the goal is to figure out the customer's problems, narrow down their problems into the exact set of things that you address, explain like how you like fucking destroy those problems, and then, you know, say, this is the price, right? I mean, a lot of the actual mechanics of sales is being just sending 10 follow-up emails. You know, like Stelly says that all the time. It's actually so true, right? Like the people who win are the people that just like keep doing the thing. You know, if it's kind of working and you keep doing it, it'll keep kind of working. Mostly, I think. It gets tricky, like when you're changing strategy or you're trying to get a new customer segment or something. That's always when the unknown stuff is happening. But if you have a business like mine that's been, you know, selling to roughly the same kinds of people since inception, right? Most of the work is just showing up and like doing the thing day in and day out.
All right. Let's move on to our last founder, Andre. He's working on a totally new app. I'll let him explain it to you. This will be slightly different than the first two.
Totally new app. Oh, I'm so excited. What's up?
Hey guys. Yeah, it's like a week old. Let me start with a short story. Like I worked on another app before. It's still working. It's bootstrapped. It's a chatbot for learning English. It started like kind of on Messenger and Telegram, and people are like chatting with it to practice their English.
Wow.
As a second language.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there are like apps from the App Store, and it's making like 10K per month currently. Yeah.
Mazel tov.
Thanks. Yeah, it was kind of in like maintenance mode for the last like year or so. I was kind of like burnt out working on it or whatever. And recently, it keeps working. People keep using it, but I see like the people want to like practice their English, and but the bot is not really a great way to solve it. So I made another app which is kind of like peer-to-peer, like talking with other people,
right,
like in English. And after like a few weeks of like playing with it, I saw that. Like the problem is basically like finding other people to chat with, and like the topics, and it's not really like just for English, but like it would be cool to like solve this thing like in general, like if you can come to somewhere and find group chats and like other people to chat with, to have interesting conversations. And that's like that's the idea I'm working on now.
Is this
maybe
a paid service?
No, it's like a social consumer app.
So you just want to do it for fun, like you want to get big.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean that there might be like different paths it could take. Maybe there is some dating component to it eventually, and it's like really. I don't
You're
like.
telling me some shit right here, Andre. All right.
Yeah. I messaged Cortland like it probably not be very relevant, but maybe we can like spend 5 minutes like just.
Sure. I mean, I have some thought. I mean, like, so this like whole world of people with complementary language skills meeting up to talk to each other is like a very old one. It's like a real life practice that has existed for a very long time, right? Like if you travel to a foreign city, you can very often, find like a meetup group for people who are trying to learn English and who will teach you like Korean or whatever a little bit in real life. So there definitely is a social practice around this. I feel like over the years have seen other apps somewhat like this, like find people to Skype with, talk about different languages. So this is clearly like a thing that people want to do. I would say most people aren't trying to learn a second language. So there is kind of like this is, a niche for people who are interested in language learning, of which the market is served variously with different like consumer products at this time. Figuring out where you fit into that landscape, I think is going to be the hard part. And then of course you have to become very good at marketing, probably. Like where are you and all that?
Yeah, so like the current thing is not really geared towards language learning that much. It's just
Really?
It's more of a like general social app kind of a like. Let me
It's just people calling each other to chat.
Just chatting.
Can you do one right now?
Yeah, let me try sharing the screen.
This is wild.
Yeah. So sorry if it's like super relevant. I'll try to be really.
No, I enjoy the strangeness of all things.
Yeah. How do I share? Yeah, I see.
You gotta click a button. I know that's not helpful. I got it.
Can you see the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's like Tinder for calling people.
Yeah, exactly. Not calling people, but that's group chats. So basically, it's like Tinder for group chats.
Wait. What does it look like? Is this live?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I mean, like, is this screen? Is this is this going to show us some real, actual group chats?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like it's not much stuff happening there. It's just like some dummy things. I
so they're not real group chats.
It's real group chats, but there are very few people, and it's just a few people.
Okay.
I asked to just
test
it out from other apps. So basically, like that's like a card you get, and there is a group chat behind it. So basically, like card says some things like what is it about, and you can either like swipe left if it's doesn't seem interesting, and swipe right if it's interesting. Yeah, and it's like you can go there, and it's like tasting, or you can it's basically like you can set the topic there, and then go to the group chat, and it's kind of like a mini temporary community or something.
Man, I don't know. Do you think this is gonna work? This sounds crazy. Like this sounds a little crazy, right? Like you understand like why this would sound crazy to someone?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like I don't like it's not something that I was like I think that's like
would you use this? I don't get it, because like what am I gonna like choose what like chat room to join, like
it's just from what.
Why would I do that? Would I stick in that?
I was really surprised that like at kinds of shit people do on the internet, and like I was really surprised that people are chatting with the chat bot, which is you can imagine not very smart, like for hours. And also like the other app, the English practice with other people, it seems like a lot of people are still like bored and like looking for some new
human connection. I guess that's fair.
Yeah. So
dude, this is pretty far outside of the realm of my expertise. I would say that like my trends as a consumer that I've seen, it's just like I see a lot of communities sort of self-selecting into like their own sort of not closed, but like specific community focus, like Discords and Slacks and the like, where kind of they they choose the idea for the thing and then kind of put it out there that like people can choose to join. I would be interested to know whether this hypothesis works, right? Which is like people are looking to join pretty much anything and they kind of just want to swipe randomly through the list of all possible things that could be and then join. I don't know if the community is permanent even. So like, I'm not sure what the value prop is. Is it just to have a fun time chatting? It seems like you would spend a lot of time trying to find like a relevant chat only to be disappointed in like the quality of the chat. It seems hard to ensure that people have like an enjoyable experience. Whereas with the people who are looking to just speak to someone on the phone, I think that's more immediate. It's like more of a visceral human need. They like just like talking. Like chat roulette blew up. That's like totally true, right? Like that actually happened. It's a huge thing. And like to some extent, like people who live in the current day are very bad at predicting what the next kind of thing of that is going to be. And I have no idea, right? I would say that like, this is not, to me, shockingly new enough, you know, like that it is like a lot of those things kind of just in a little bit different of a way.
Yeah. It's,
I would say if you could make it more shocking, then like maybe like you'll have at least. So part of what like catapulted chat roulette to fame was that like it got covered and stuff, right? Like people were talking about it in the news and so forth. And then people are like, oh shit, I should check that thing out. I can just click on this link and anyone can join. Like that's cool. If you get people doing that with your B2C free app, then like maybe you got some legs. But it's gonna be hard to hit that critical mass without like some kind of like thing. But like TikTok's gimmick was really good, right? Like you know my TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like that kind of like new kind of medium. It was a totally new medium for self-expression and communication. But I guess not so totally new to be unintelligible, just new enough to make old people go, why would you want to do that? Young people to think like, I want to do that because old people don't want me to do that. And then it just kind of became its own thing. This kind of feels like it more straddles that middle ground where it's not going to polarize enough people to like be, oh, someone's being terrible in chat. Anyway, I'm just going to close this window. I forgot that the internet is like how it is. And yeah, I would say like, I would look for that edge if you're going to make this kind of app. And the edge can be very hard to find. And most people, like full warning, like never manage to find it. I know a guy that's been trying to make some kind of consumer type, like social phenomenon product for like the last 5 years. He has a different idea every year and they're all terrible. You know, like
same thing here. Yeah, I know.
It's it's your golden goose, and I know why you want to do it, right? Because nothing feels better than making this thing that like one day 1 billion people like might use, right? Like that you would be beyond famous, right? Like it would be beyond any type of satisfaction that you can get doing a B2B, right? Like you can make a bunch of money, but toil in obscurity like me. Like, is that going to feel as satisfying as inventing TikTok? Like, no way, right? Like, so I get it. It's just.
Do you think so? Is it really like that? Like I always like I work on different kind of on different kind of apps. Like I sometimes I try to do some SaaS B2B thing, and I just like really find myself like bored or something. Like I just
it's boring.
Yeah,
SaaS work is boring. I have a boring job.
Okay.
Like
it's not just me. Yeah. Okay.
Like the people who end up being good at it are people that can consign themselves to like some light degree of boredom per day. But like most of my days, at least work related, are not exciting. You know, the excitement has to come from outside of work. But I think a lot of people crave for their like life's work to be the exciting thing. Like the thing that you show up to every day is the thing that you also derive excitement from. And I think, you know, like you might be such a person. But the people who make social apps, I think, are often that kind of person. They need a life story to fit in this like very specific way, to have this narrative where, you know, you made this thing and then everyone loves it. And also it's like a thing that got you rich and famous. There are other ways of acquiring meaning in life. I recommend like investigating them. I think they can be more healthy. But you know, like I get why people want to do that because it's awesome, truly.
Vincent, was there a time where you were more excited about CoderPad? Because you said earlier that, the reason you came on Indie Hackers is because you stopped caring. And
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the beginning when it looked like we might not make it or whatever, or like I didn't know if we could make it, I guess. It was more of a like, oh, I wonder what we should do. Like, this is kind of a fun problem to noodle on. I think in the beginning it tends to be more exciting, definitely. But like by the time you hit your stride, like it's kind of like we know the rough parameters of like what the good version of this company is going to look like. So we're just going to walk towards that outcome,
So what's your goal now? I mean, you guys are at 4 million annual revenue. Why not just do something crazy that you might fail at?
I don't know, man. That's it. I should. You're right. Like you're clowning on me right now. You're dunking. You're right. Like I should, like some amount of inertia, I would say. And I kind of feel like I have enough entertaining things that are non-business that like make me feel like doing such a thing is not a priority in my life. Like the money is really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Well, you've created this money-making machine and you can now steer it toward whatever you personally want.
I'll always remember. Do you remember that, what's that guy's name? The guy who wrote Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton. He wrote this novel called Timeline. And there's some throwaway line in the novel where there's describing this like rich entrepreneur or whatever. And he's talking about one of his old companies. Like, yeah, that company was a cash cow and it was about as much fun to run as milking a cow. I've never forgotten that. It stuck with me since like I was a child. Like milking a cow.
Don't let CoderPad become that.
I don't know. Like he didn't say that in a way to make it seem like, he regretted doing it. It was just like, this is how it is. Like this is a cash cow and you milk it. How do you get the cash? See, cash cow is really funny, right? As an idiom, you never really think of how you get the cash out of the cow, but it's obvious, right? You have to milk the cow. There's no other possible way, right? And milking a cow is really brutal. You got to wake up at like 6 a.m. or whatever, like every day, and get in there. Yeah, they have machines now, I guess, but
yeah. You're saying that the fun part is really like growing the cow, raising the cow, making sure it doesn't die.
Trying to figure out whether you can get the cow to sustainability is a very exciting time. It's like life or death, right? But,
anyway, I didn't mean to cut in on your session, Andre, if you've got more questions. I just have to challenge Vincent a little bit.
That was a fun diversion. Andre, what else do you want to talk about? Are you dating anyone right now?
I'm married.
Oh.
With a kid. Yeah.
Ooh, how old?
I'm past the stage of life where you should experiment with the shit like I'm doing.
How old is your son or daughter?
2.5 years, daughter.
Oh, congratulations. It's a very exciting time.
Thanks.
Are you trying to like try these business ideas so you can make a bunch of money to like sort of secure a future? Or like how do you think about like what you're doing?
Yeah, I kind of like I kind of have this smaller cash cow in terms of chatbot.
So you feel set, and you're just like playing with new ideas, kind of.
I mean, it's not like the very very big cow, and it's kind of like it's not that stable, and it might go away because it's consumer and like rankings on the App Store depend on whatever. Yeah, but like it feels like I have some time while the cow is still alive
now,
to experiment with things.
Yeah, $10K per month is a lot of money to be making off a consumer app. Most consumer app people never get anywhere near that far, right? Like,
I know about it. Yeah, I have like 20 other apps that taught me about it. Yeah,
that's actually really good. I mean, like, so yeah, I don't know what to do next.
And the thing you told earlier about like you can have an idea and like a great idea, but it just wouldn't work. And it's not your fault. It was something similar for me. Like it was like it's not. I don't see something that I did like really right to make it work. It's just kind of happened like some time, right timing and
yeah. And sometimes ideas, like they don't make it because you just don't occur out there, right? Like you don't make like the perfect play that you couldn't see because you weren't creative enough in the moment, like it's so hard to prove these counterfactuals. If you look at, I don't know, I feel like if you look at like really high level people like playing games and stuff, like chess or tennis or whatever. It's not just that they're better. I mean, you can tell that they're better like than their opponent, but it's also like they come up with stuff that you wouldn't have thought to come up with like in the moment, right? So maybe there is like a really clever way of like marketing this new thing that like sells it, right? But like I'm not clever enough to like be able to see like what that is. You know, it might exist. It's hard to evaluate, right? Like so like ideas are hard to evaluate on their own merits, especially in the consumer space a lot of the time, because you can't think of the thing that would make it work up front a lot of the time. Like sometimes it comes later, oftentimes it never comes, you know, and like all of this stuff is roulette at the very bottom layer, you know.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end on. Thanks. All this stuff is roulette at the bottom level. Thanks a lot, Vincent, for going on and doing office hours with everybody. Thanks, Alex and Shell and Andre, for sharing your startup stories. Maybe next time, Vincent, if you come on again, I'll do Indie Hackers office hours. You can tell me what to do.
I can tell you what. I tell you what to do all the time. You just don't do it. I don't understand what. Don't lie to me.
You could tell me. I didn't say I do, but you could tell me.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks so much, guys. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, hopefully in the future, as long as I can convince people like Vincent to come on.
It was a pleasure. Alex, Philip, and Andre, thank you for your time as well. It was nice having you.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Leave me.